Hello, Professor. I hope you're having a great day. This is my presentation on my paper critiquing the show How to Get Away with Murder. So, summary of my research question. The thesis of my paper is that while viewers revere How to Get Away with Murder, I postulate that the show is problematic because of how it perpetrates stereotypes against Black women and utilizes Black trauma. So, essentially, I watched this show maybe 6 months ago, and I in this class looked at how economics has affected things, how sexuality has affected things in TV. And so I really, as a Black woman, wanted to focus on a show that centers Black women that I like generally and see if I could critically critique it to kind of shift my perspective or see how the show can improve. So that's my general research question. And then a summary of my methodologies. I researched by obviously watching the show and writing down some critical observations that I had. So observations about Black trauma, observations about Annalise Keating's character in the show and how it's represented, and things of that nature. And so I took down my thoughts and I did a preliminary search of articles to see if my line of thinking is along the same vein of others surrounding this topic. So something that's really important to me when I'm researching a paper is I don't want to have to hunt and peck to find an article that supports my viewpoint. I want to be able to say, How to Get Away with Murder critique in Google Scholar and have a couple of articles within the first page that support to a certain degree or can help me bolster my observations, as opposed to me making my observations and then hunting and pecking and looking for kind of articles that kind of back up what I'm saying. So it's my general methodology. The sources that I used were three. One was called It's Time to Step Away from Black Trauma by Louise Giadum. That has to do with Black trauma in film and essentially how, though it is helpful to depict Black stories, it can sometimes be more harmful than it is good. I also used the article Anti-Woman by Jessica Love. That has to do with representation of Black women in Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder, which is right up my alley. And then the last article I used was From Blonde to Brutal by Jasmine Marino. Essentially, that talks about the depiction of lawyers from Legally Blonde to obviously Annalise Keating and How to Get Away with Murder. These are all reputable sources. They're scholarly articles. So just wanted to make sure that I was along that vein in my research. So I had three main critiques for this paper. One is that Annalise Keating's callous, unloving, and uncaring nature makes her inaccessible to viewers. Second, Annalise Keating reinforces angry Black women stereotypes through her conduct as a lawyer in the show. And three, How to Get Away with Murder uses Black trauma in a harmful way for character development. For each of these three critiques, I have an example in the show, and I also have an article to back up my viewpoint. So first being Annalise Keating's callous, unloving, and uncaring nature makes her inaccessible to viewers. Throughout the show, it's very clear that Annalise is an unhappy woman, and there's not much dichotomy there, which to me makes her character kind of one-dimensional. So great example of this in terms of her being callous. She doesn't really care about other people's feelings, even the feelings of people who she works closely with and who would consider to be friends. We can see this when Bonnie, who is somebody who works very closely with her, is seeking approval, and Annalise doesn't give it to her. So loving in the sense that she is supposed to love multiple people. Her husband, she has an affair on the show, so them, and she's willing to throw those people under the bus for her career, which speaks to what I talked about in my article, which is the loveless Black boss, which Annalise is. Essentially says if you're a Black woman looking to succeed in your career, that you can't fully realize your personal relationships. And I feel like Annalise is a great example of that. On to the next point about reinforcing angry Black women stereotypes of their conduct as a lawyer. Though Annalise is confident and though she's successful as a lawyer, we can see she doesn't have a whole bunch of control over her emotions. She kind of flies off the handle. Great example of this is when she gets into an altercation with another lawyer and physically assaults them in the middle of the altercation. I think to me, this reinforces and proves angry Black women stereotypes because despite the fact that this woman is super incredibly successful, she still is emulating this angry kind of persona. And then last, How to Get Away with Murder uses Black trauma in a harmful way for character development. We see with pretty much all the Black characters, their traumatic events being represented in this show. There's sexual abuse, miscarriages in the case of Annalise, police brutality, suicide. And while I think it is important to shed light on these things, I think that the show could give character development in a different way because we see them do that with non-Black characters. I also think that though it's important to shed light on some of these common experiences in the Black community, that it's important that we're not re-traumatizing our audience as we're trying to learn more about these Black characters. Like there are other ways that we can do this. So in conclusion, How to Get Away with Murder is a great show, but it has some flaws with representation and stereotypes that I think can't be ignored. It is known for its trauma, it's known for its diverse cast. It's a hit TV show on ABC, but it's important that we critically analyze even the most popular shows to see how they can improve, because till we improve, things won't necessarily get better. So that is my presentation on my paper. I'm sorry, I think I went a little bit over time, but if you have any other questions, thank you so much for such a great year, and I hope you have a good one.